Disobedience, beneficial or harmful to society, presented by Hugh H. So first off, we need to gather some background. So what is disobedience? According to dictionary.com, disobedience is the lack of obedience or the refusal to comply. It is a disregard or transgression. So this is what we ask the question, why is this important? Like, how can we use this to our advantage? So how is disobedience actually beneficial to our society? First off, it can promote individuality through the expression of our unique ideas. Secondly, it questions the power of authority or norms that we see in like Simone Biles' case. And then thirdly, it can spark social progress that we have seen throughout history, like figures like Martin Luther King. Thomas and Shalett from the Moral Courage and Intelligent Disobedience article state that disobedience goes beyond disciplined initiative to address violations of values, asking tough and relevant questions, to clarify orders, and pressures to engage those giving orders. This quote is important because it proves that disobedience promotes critical thinking and our expression of our own ideas, and it makes us think for ourselves. You also see this through Simone Biles when Marcus Thompson II says that Simone Biles knew she was going to see the backlash and hear it and answer for it, yet she opted for vulnerability. This is important because Simone Biles disobeys the societal norms that we have set to seek out something like greater than her own pride and something that she believed in. So we looked at how disobedience is beneficial to society, but how can it be harmful? First off, it leads to chaos, and secondly, there are possible ways to solve a problem within the law, and then thirdly, it can act as a setback to society rather than a spark to social progress. Christopher B. Gray, who has a PhD in philosophy at Concordia University in Montreal, states that unjust laws made by a democratic legislature can be changed by a democratic legislature. The existence of lawful channels of change make civil disobedience unnecessary. And the problem with this statement is that it can take too long to change legislature, which is why people do disobey. We shouldn't have to wait for disobedience we shouldn't have to wait for our principles to align with what society believes in. We should it's a call to action. So this evidence, it proves that disobedience is more beneficial than harmful. However, there's a problem, and that is that disobedience isn't tolerated in all forms of government or countries. We see this through successful examples like Martin Luther King, Rosa Parks, and the Revolutionary War Americans. These were all part of a democratic government where protests were not immediately shut down and suppressed. But then if we look at unsuccessful examples, the 1989 Tiananmen Square protests, the White Rose protests, and the Sharpeville massacre, these were in China, Nazi, and South Africa, and these are important because it shows that in a non-democratic government, disobedience didn't really work because it was immediately suppressed and frowned upon. So solution one to this is that it can change governments to better allow freedoms and discussions. So the implications of this, we would be more socially cohesive because of the increase of freedoms like freedom of speech, because people want to speak up for what they believe in because it's not frowned upon. There's an increase of public participation, and then there is a challenge to authority. Authority will try to challenge and suppress these rights that we have established, and it can also be against cultural or governmental frameworks. So the limitations of this, there is a concern for national security within the country and then outside of the country by international relations, and then it may contradict cultural norms, and then there is a lack of resources because who is going to fund this? It's not going to be the government. Solution two to this is promoting awareness about the tolerance of disobedience. Implications of this, it would increase public engagement. If people are more educated on a topic, then they will be speaking about it more and they're more educated. There is an increased diversity of thought and critical thinking because we have a better understanding of our civic responsibilities. And then there is a potential for misinterpretation. People might interpret this as a go disobey just for the sake of disobeying, but it's really a disobey for the sake of change. Limitations to this, there will be governmental resistance as well as resistance from the people within a country. They might not seek out this change. Maybe they are already happy with how it is, so they don't want to change, which is fine. There's also resource barriers because, again, who is going to fund this? It's not going to be the government. So what is the best solution? The best solution is solution 2 because it's just it's more realistic than governmental change. We can't just change a government. It leads to cultural shifts that allow freedoms and discussions long run. In a governmental change, we're not going to change, it's going to work for like a little bit, but then it'll either be suppressed or it'll just decay. And then there will be less resistance faced by promoting awareness because it's just laid back and no one is offended necessarily. Lose my works cited.
Okay, so Hugh, what information did you need that you weren't able to find or locate?
I wish I was able to find some sort of like statistics or like about really anything, or I would have wished to find like what factors go into like civil disobedience successfully. Like it can't just be location. I think there's something greater than that that's correlated to it.
Okay, and how did you use the conclusions or questions of other people to advance your own research?
I used the conclusions of other people to see like a lot of these stimulus packets were talking about how courage and disobedience is good, and I think that like going on from that, I looked up how disobedience really is, I don't know, encouraged or no. How disobedience is like successful, I guess. So I found that, like I found a pattern of location, but I think there's something else.
Okay, thank you.